Hello, my name is Yesenia Mangini, and I will be doing a presentation on parenthood and raising children. Now, I would like to also add a little bit of intake from my perspective on how it is to be a parent of three children. Factors that need to be considered when deciding whether you want to be a parent or not. Now, this is the biggest decision you'll ever make in your life. It's the hardest job you will ever have, that's for sure. And some of the things that you should consider um, to evaluate before you have a child is to make sure you have a good health status. Your physical health is going to be very important. It's going to play a big role in your pregnancy. It's something that you can do for yourself and for your child. So that is something you definitely have to look at before you start thinking about having a child. Another thing is financial stability. Kids are expensive, and it is very hard to be able to buy everything that you'll need for that child in the first year, along with formula if that's what you choose to do, diapers. I know that I had three kids all in diapers, and that was very expensive. So I really had no choice but to breastfeed all of them. It was not really. I was very young at that age. When I had my first kid, I was 20 when I had my first kid, and I know that it was I wasn't thinking about building their immunity. I was just pretty lost when I had my first kid. So, but one thing I did know is that I couldn't afford to pay $32 per can for formula. So I had no other choice but to breastfeed. And then the twins came a year later, so I breastfed them too. I really had no choice, but I'm very glad that I did. So that's definitely you want to be financially stable when you decide to have children. Emotionally, that's also something that you want to look at. If you have fears, you have anxiety about becoming a parent, that's normal. You have to kind of see what is normal, what's a normal emotional standpoint, and what is not. So that should also play a big part in taking care of yourself before you have a child or not. Um, Career goals. Are you where you want to be in life? Do you feel good about school, about what you've accomplished? So that's something that I think it's important for people that aspire to be more, because when children come, it becomes a lot harder to go to school or want to do more. It's very hard. Another thing, you want to make sure that you have a good support system. You want to make sure that you are able to go back to work after your maternity leave is over. You want to make sure that there's some caregiver. How are you going to pay for that caregiver? How are you going to swap schedules with the father of your baby, whether you're married or not? It's something that's very important because you cannot leave babies alone. So there's a lot that goes into that. And your age. I think age is very important. Like I said, I got pregnant at 19. I was already married. I married at 18. So at 19, I was pregnant, and at 20, I had my first baby. Now I had no idea what it was like to be a parent. My mom was not very she's not a nurturer, and she didn't really help me at all. So I was on my own, me and my husband. So I learned a lot, and I think I had a harder time because of my age. At that time, my friends were going out, they were in school, they were having fun, they were doing all the stuff that I wanted to do, but I felt like I was left behind. So age is very important. When you're older, I do feel that you're more financially stable. You have a maturity level where you can take on this type of responsibility, which is being a parent. Now now that my kids are older, my oldest one is almost 16 and the twins are 14. Now I enjoy being a young mom, because now at 30, almost 36, I feel like I can do more things. I can travel, I go out with them. They're actually fun to hang out with. My kids before, they were like a chore, a responsibility, but now I'm glad I had them at the time that I did. So age is that it's a good factor to consider before becoming a parent. Now, I would like to talk about why people choose not to have children. Americans are having fewer kids, and the U.S. fertility rate is at an all-time low. There's a lot of single people, couples that are not married and but they live together and they decided, not to have children, or delay the whole process of parenthood. Um, Also, being child free in America, still there's a lot of stigma that goes behind that concept. There's a lot of women that I have encountered that have told me, I don't want to have children, and I totally get why they don't. I'm not saying that I don't. I wish I did not have my children, but if I would not have had them at the age that I did, if I was probably a little bit more, mature and actually thought about what I was doing, um, I probably wouldn't have had 3 kids. My children were not planned. I was on birth control, and all of a sudden one came out and then two came out, and I said, "Oh my gosh, what did I get myself into?" So I totally understand why women choose not to. I get why men don't either. Um, my boyfriend now of 4.5 years and we have chosen not to have any more kids. I already have 3 from my previous marriage, and he does not have any children. Now, the reasons that he's given me why he doesn't want to have children, is that, he's very selfish. He likes to, you know, travel. He likes to be in and out. He doesn't want to have to worry about being a provider for children. He's just basically he's told me, I still want to have fun. I don't want to be tied down to forming a family. So, and since I already have kids, it's not a big deal. I mean, in 10 years, I will most likely have grandchildren. So, it's just other people kind of, other family members make up for us having children. But yeah, I mean, having children is just such a big thing because of now, especially right now, with all the things that are going on in the world, um, the precedent, the whole drug, you know, problem that we have here in America, you're just always so worried about where your kids are at, who they're hanging out with, what will their future be. Um, College. I have 3 kids that are basically going to be going to college. Like within one will be going, and then the next year the other ones will be going. So I know that's going to be super expensive. So I understand why women and men do not want to have children. But at the same time, I am very glad that I did it and I got it over with and I didn't think about it. I just did it and I'm so glad I did because I love my children so much. They have turned me into a better person, a better mother, a better woman, a better nurse, a better, soon to be wife. I really don't take them for granted because they are everything that I ever wanted in children. So yeah, it's just 2 different mindsets, whether you want to have children or not. I totally understand both decisions. But yeah, it's pretty irritating though that, when I tell people, oh, they ask me, oh, are you going to have children? Because he doesn't have any. And I say, no, we are not going to have children. Oh, well, he's going to want one. You should at least give him one. the pressure is so great. And sometimes I don't even want to answer, or sometimes I just say, yeah, 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 if it happens, it happens, because I just don't want to go into it with people trying to pressure us to, have kids. Like, they have nothing to do with our life or our relationship, but still they try to, put in their 2 cents on what we should and we should not do. That's his parents mostly, because they want grandchildren. But yeah, that's my view on this, deciding whether to have a child or not. Trends that have changed in parenthood. Unmarried parents, that's definitely something that has changed. I know that in my family, we're very old old school, call it old fashioned. Since I come from Peru, I was raised there. My mother and my grandmother, my whole family, once I became pregnant, they were like, "You have to get married. There's no choice. You have to get married." So now, I mean, that was back in like 2001, and I mean, there's just so many people that now are just, they're parenting and they're not married, and they don't have that pressure, that legal pressure to, be together. So, I mean, that's definitely something that's changed. Okay, now dad's becoming more involved in childcare. That's great. And yes, that is very true, because I know that, I know so many dads that are just like, yeah, after work, they'll go and like play some ball with their kids, and they change diapers, and they also help, feed them and wake up in the middle of the night. I think that's a great trend that's changed in parenthood. Higher divorce rate now. That's very unfortunate, even though I am part of the statistic. It's just, like I said, there's a, when you're young or whatever it is, you're not really there. It's such a big decision, but you're just kind of like, oh, you're in love, and you make choices that you regret later on. Now, I was married for 13 years, so I gave it a good try and did everything I could before we divorced, but it just wasn't in the cards for us. Both parents working, that's very, very new. And I think it's a good thing, because um, I think that that gives women a little bit more freedom to do what they like a little bit, to get out of the house, feel good about themselves, bring home some money, and then when they get home, they have their family. I think that's a great thing. In my country, in Peru, it's still very old-fashioned, to where the mother stays home, takes care of the kids, cleans the house, does all of that, and the man comes, goes to work, and he really doesn't help when he gets home. So I think that's also very good for both, for men and women. Just gives you a little break from being in the home all the time, and it also gives you a financial break as well. Struggles to balance work and family life. That comes after both parents are working. That's pretty bad. It affects the marriage very much. Um, for example, like, I work mornings and my husband work nights. We wouldn't see each other. And when we, saw each other, it was just like, okay, like, okay, you have to do this, you have to do that for the kids. So it was just so like, it became also a job just to like take care of the kids and, go to work. But it was, we struggled a lot trying to balance the family and work. Single parenthood by choice. That's pretty new. I don't understand why you would want to have a baby and just deprive him on, not giving him a mom or well, a dad. Usually, women nowadays want to wait until, they're 40 or later, and they freeze their eggs, and, they pick a donor, and boom, they have a baby. But I don't think that is fair for the child. I think a child should be entitled of having a father and a mother, and for them to also be in their life. So that's something that I don't really agree with. I don't think um, God would want that for a child. Delayed marriage, that's great. I think that delaying marriage, getting to know that person better, it's definitely a plus. Need for childcare, yes. That is unfortunate. I don't have my family here, so it's just my mom and my sister, and my mom doesn't do childcare or anything for me. So um, that's definitely been, also very expensive for us as the kids were, growing up. Having three kids in childcare was very expensive, but well, it's something that you need if both parents are working, going to school, and taking care of kids. You have to have childcare. So that's not definitely it's not a plus. I wish I had family that could have helped me out back then, and that would have been great. Increase in multiracial parents. Oh yeah, that's been, especially I want to say maybe like in the last 5 years, I started noticing more and more. My sister, for example, she's full Peruvian, 100% Peruvian, and her husband, he's half African American and half Chinese. So I think that's just, the babies are gorgeous, and I've been noticing more since my sister's, she makes those are the first like really mixed babies in the family. My kids are half Peruvian and they're half Cuban. So I mean, we have definitely we're exposed to more races here in America, and I think it's showing more now than it was before. Breadwinner mothers, yeah, that's what we do. I'm the breadwinner mother. I take care of my kids. I go to work. I go to school, um, and I take care of them on my days off. It's definitely I'm the head of household for now, and it's a struggle, but I have learned to balance my life and work and time with my kids. I've had a lot of experience doing that, and I believe I'm doing a good job, and my kids do too. Um, Increase in educational achievements in parents. Yeah, definitely. When I first I mean my grandmother, she didn't go to school. She didn't even graduate high school. So at 16, she was already having babies. So that's not okay, I think. She had goals and dreams too, but she couldn't because she decided to have kids. My mom, she has a master's degree, so I saw by example, I should go to school. So I think that's why I love school. I enjoy being educated. I like it. I like to know things. So I think that our educational achievements for this generation has definitely increased because it's the thing to do. Now it's hard to get a job without a bachelor's or a master's. So an associate's degree is like barely you can get anything with even with that. So I think it's a positive change. I know that our book doesn't really talk about this too much. Actually, I don't think at all. I think that it should be brought up that women's mental health is a big problem, especially for people or mothers, your women that would like to be mothers one day. I think that there's just so much stress on us on being thin and looking good and, only having, a tiny little belly when you're pregnant, and it's and that's not, I mean, I don't think that's a good thing. I think that women should embrace that time when you're pregnant because it might only be one time. And I have friends that don't want to get fat, so therefore they don't want to be mothers. They don't want to carry a baby. They rather have a surrogate carry the baby. They tell me, "Oh, well, she can do all the work and she can get fat and I can keep my figure and I will have myself a baby." Now, I mean, there's so many options out there now, but I just don't think that I think that all of this like social media, internet, this there's a lot of pressure for women to be thin, and I think that that's a factor for women as well when they're thinking about becoming mothers. So it's just I think that that needed to be brought up. Some of the advantages to parenting in the 21st century, of course, you have help with the technology. You have cell phones. You can get a hold of your son, your daughter, at any time. You could also track them. Their phones have tracking apps that you can use as well, so that way you know where they're at all times. Parents also have more education, more resources than they did in the past. If you want to know about, is my kid developing right? Is he going through any type of delay in developing milestones as they're growing? You can just look it up online, or you can go to a parenting class. You have just so many people that can help you, um, in order to identify things that back in the days you just like, okay, well, I guess it's normal. There's really nobody to ask. So I think that's a good thing. Uh, Knowledge about the development of your child and child raising techniques. I know I took child development classes. I really did educate. I read books before I was pregnant, while I was pregnant, and then as they got older, because my son, I noticed that my son started developing. He had a speech delay, so I got more into it. We were tested, and were speech therapists, psychologists, and at the end, it turns out that my twins, they both have learning disabilities. So they weren't meeting those milestones that they were supposed to be having, you know, at every year. So I thought that was a great thing that there was help for me to figure out how I can, help them, because it was frustrating. I'm like, why isn't he doing this? Why isn't he talking? Why is he on his own? For a second, I thought he had autism. So, I mean, I'm glad he doesn't, but there were people that were able to help me out, and I think that's definitely a plus right now in the 21st century. Um, okay, so there is more flexibility in childcare. That's great. You can drop off your kids as early as 5 o'clock in the morning and pick them up later. I mean, you're just throwing money at people basically to solve that childcare need. I think that's, I mean, good for people that are always working or working longer. They have longer days. So that's good. Convenient meal prepping. Well, back in the days, and I know I had to go through it in Peru. I mean, we ate rice all the time, but we actually had to, like, get the bad rice out. Like, we had to separate the bad rice from the good rice. We had to peel all of our vegetables. We had to chop everything. My grandma just had us there working like for hours, just doing all this prepping so that she can cook the food. So over here, when I just, my first time when I went to Ralph's, yeah, that was my first store, and I went in and I saw all the stuff that they had already in a box, already made. All you had to do was put it in the microwave. I was like overwhelmed. I'm like, this is great. So I mean, we also gained a lot of weight because a lot of the processed foods, high sodium food. But we were just super excited that this was available. My mom took full advantage of that. But now, now we know that that's not really the healthy choice to be giving your kids that. So I mean, it's convenient if you're using it once in a great while, but it's there. If you need it, it's there. And I think that's an advantage. So some of the challenges to parenting in the 21st century, there's a lot of them, but here's some that we learned in our textbook. Definitely, the working role. It's something that takes, nowadays takes priority because you need to make ends meet. um, you need to maintain your kids. I have three. I'm a single mom, so if I'm short with something or something came up, the kids need something, I have to ask for some overtime or pick up a shift. So yeah, work is very important. At least in my family, because if I don't work, then nothing gets paid. Um, Also, today's parents raise their children in a society that's characterized with conflicting values and points of view. Um, it comes from everywhere. I believe that with the internet and the social media, a lot of I feel like the you're competing with the internet and the social apps on how to parent your child. It's like it's a never winning, battle. My kids want to be a certain way because, a certain group of people, that are showing off on Instagram are being this way, or it's just they're watching different things, different people interactions. They don't know who they are themselves, so they just kind of follow the newest trend. So I think that is a big challenge. um, you also have that, a lot of parenting advice. You get it from everywhere. You get it from your doctors, your pediatrician. You get it from your family. You get it from the internet. You get it from the teachers. And they do contradict themselves. I just think that it's. I mean, I know I can do it. I can pick up whatever I feel is a good idea to try. I pick up little things from all the advice and I put it into my style of parenting. Now, for other people, it's a little bit harder, Oh, they kind of go, what? Oh, my pediatrician said this, I had to do this, and this is what my kid should be doing. And it's they don't know how to um, modify their parenting style very well, because they just want to follow like exactly what the advice was given, from usually they from the teachers or from the doctors, or from even your mother. I know that in our Hispanic community, oh no, you should do this and you have to do this because this is what my mom used to do and it will work. But it's kind of hard, to to think about, okay, well, they used to do this and that makes no sense. I don't know how this is going to solve this problem. But it's very confusing and conflicting when you're getting all this advice from people. Now you have the sandwich, generation. You have I have my mom. She is in her 60s, close to retirement, and I have young kids that are teens. So there is a little bit of stress that builds up when my mom gets sick. She lives by herself by choice. Um, she has a huge house and she just wants to be there all by herself. So I don't know what's going on with her very much. And I also have my kids, when they get sick, I have to tend to them and their activities at school. And then I have my mom to worry about. She has really bad asthma and she has high blood pressure. So we have to kind of like, I'm being pulled both ways. And I'm worried for my mom and I'm worried for my kids. So it's tough when you get to this part of your life. Um, and then you have the support for parents. When when they have a family, I have also noticed that back in the 90s, there was a little more emphasis on, the YMCA, kind of like programs where after school programs for, the kids to do something useful for the community. There were a lot of programs out there. And now I feel like that's kind of, it's gone. You don't really have a lot of, family oriented things to do, programs to do. They don't fund them, there's no money, so they just take it out. But I think that was something that was very beneficial back in the days when I was growing up and my mom was a single mom, so she needed that extra help and there was funding and we went to these programs that really helped us. And of course, then there's the good old parental authority is often questioned. That is not my favorite. Yeah, I mean, you have um, my style of parenting is authoritative, but it's also, it's a positive in a positive way. I tell my kids very clearly, okay, well, this is what needs to be done, and I give them the reasons why. But they have a sense, oh, well, why? Well, why should I do this? And well, if he did it, why can't I do it? And it's like, oh my gosh, I'm your parent. Just do it because it's what's best for you. And yeah, your authority gets questioned by your kids. It's not, it's really not, it's not a very big struggle with me right now. I mean, they're teens and they have their little hormones all over the place, but they respect me. And when I tell them something needs to be done and I have that voice, they do it. So I don't have a really big problem with that. They have always followed the rules. Very rare. I mean, maybe like one time my oldest one got in trouble in his whole life, and the twins they're godsend. They don't get in trouble at all. So yeah, that's a problem that I see here and there. But it's something that I see outside of my house with other people. It's like, oh my gosh, like, who's the parent here? The kid or the parent? So that's definitely something that I've noticed it has changed over the decades. This is definitely my biggest challenge in my household is technology. The technology abuse, the isolation because they're doing something on their phone or their computer. Um, I literally have to force my kids to stop being on their phones. We take the phones, we put them away when we're having dinner, turn off the TV when we're having dinner. I have to set boundaries all the time, and there's always a little, lip that comes behind that. Well, why? Why? It's not, I think that it's just so sad that they rather be in front of a TV than to play board games or to spend time with us, or with me. It's just something that I really, really don't like about this generation, how they're just isolated from their from everything, their environment. They don't want to go out and take a nature walk. They rather be in their room, like with their phone in their face all day or playing a video game. So that is my biggest pet peeve. Well, thank you so much for allowing me to give you my little parenthood stories, and that's it. Thank you.